What if the one who reborns is not you? For most of us, rebirth sounds mysterious, spiritual, even mythical. Something that's either blindly believed or politely dismissed. But in Buddhism, the greatest puzzle isn't rebirth itself. It's this single question. If there is no permanent self, then who is reborn? Imagine a flame passing from one candle to another. Is it the same flame? Not exactly. Is it completely different? Also, not exactly. It continues, but nothing solid transfers. No ownership. No identical self jumping from one life to another. Just continuation of patterns, energy, causes, and conditions. This is where most of us get stuck. We picture rebirth like a soul traveling from one body to the next, like a person changing clothes. But the Buddha offered something far subtler, far more radical. Rebirth happens without a reborn self. Think about who you were at 10, 20, 30, and now. Same name, same memories, but not the same person. Even your cells have replaced themselves. Your mindset, beliefs, emotional reactions, constantly shifting. Yet there is a sense of continuity. You can't point to a single unchanging you, but life keeps unfolding in a recognizable stream. Now expand that truth beyond one lifetime. From a modern psychological perspective, we already understand this idea in a different language. Our habits, traumas, desires, fears, even emotional inheritance get passed forward long after a moment ends. You didn't choose every impulse in your mind. Some came from family, survival instincts, conditioning, unresolved emotional residues. None of these are a solid self, yet all of them carry momentum. Buddhism simply takes that same principle further. Rebirth isn't mystical reincarnation. It's the continuation of momentum without a permanent traveler. Suffering continues when ignorance continues. Compassion continues when compassion has been practiced. Awareness continues when awareness has been cultivated. So the real question is not, who am I after death? It's, what am I becoming right now? Because that becoming is what truly continues. You are not a fixed statue reincarnating through time. You are more like a river, never the same water, but always flowing according to causes set in motion. Understanding this doesn't trap you in fatalism. It liberates you. Because if there is no fixed self to defend, there is nothing to fear losing. And if the future self is not solid, it means you can shape the stream starting today. The paradox is the key. There is rebirth, but no owner of rebirth. There is continuity, but no fixed character continuing. And in that space where you are not a solid thing, something freer, clearer, and lighter can finally breathe. We will now move to the first section of today's video. Rebirth without a soul, a continuation, not a traveler. Many people hear the word rebirth and instinctively picture a soul packing its luggage, leaving one body, and moving into another like a traveler changing hotels. This idea feels familiar, especially because it aligns with what Hindu philosophy calls Atman, an eternal soul migrating from lifetime to lifetime. In that worldview, the self is real, constant, unchanging. The body is temporary clothing, but the wearer stays the same. But here is where Buddhism quietly pulls the ground from beneath our assumptions. In Buddhist wisdom, there is no permanent soul, no unchanging self, no spiritual traveler inside moving through lifetimes. If that sounds confusing, it's because for most of us, our deepest instinct is to believe that someone must be there, holding everything together, steering the story, owning the memories, carrying the identity forward. Buddhism says something radically different. Rebirth happens, but there is no one being reborn. It is not a soul that continues. It is a current of cause and effect, flowing seamlessly like one wave giving rise to the next without a separate entity jumping between them. Think of rain falling on a mountain. One drop triggers another, carving a stream that eventually becomes a river. The river exists, but try scooping a handful of water and asking, is this the river? You can't. Every droplet is new, yet the flow continues. Rebirth in Buddhism is just like this. Continuity without a container, movement without a mover, consequence without an owner. A famous Buddhist teaching says it plainly, There is rebirth, but no one reborn. There is the deed, but no doer. Let that land in your heart for a moment. Now pause and check within yourself. When you think of yourself, what are you actually pointing to? Your thoughts? They change every day. Your personality? It shifts with experience. Your emotions? They constantly weather. Your body? Its cells replace themselves entirely over time. Even your beliefs evolve as life touches you. So where exactly is this solid, permanent I that supposedly reincarnates? The Buddha wasn't denying continuity, he was denying ownership. Life continues, patterns continue, tendencies continue, consequences continue, but not an individual self who possesses them. Instead, something more subtle continues: momentum. If you water anger every day, anger continues. If you water compassion every day, compassion continues. Not because you carry it forward, but because conditions produce more of the same conditions unless awakened awareness intervenes. Modern psychology echoes this truth in a different language. Trauma passes forward not because a soul migrates, but because habits, nervous system responses, emotional imprints, and relational behaviors carry forward. Healing also transfers, not through identity, but through transformed patterns. The Buddhist view is even more liberating. You are not chained to a permanent self that must finish an unfinished story. You are free because the protagonist was never solid to begin with. The story flows, but the storyteller is a mirage made of changing elements. This reframes the whole idea of rebirth from mystical speculation to something deeply personal and practical. Rebirth is happening right now. Every time you react unconsciously, a version of you is reborn instantly, armed with the same habits, fears, assumptions. Every time you become aware instead of reactive, a different you is born, lighter, wiser, freer, no soul needed, no metaphysics required, just cause, effect, and awareness. So the real question shifts beautifully from, will I reincarnate? To, what am I reincarnating into with every breath? In Buddhism, this is not a philosophical curiosity. It is an invitation. If nothing fixed is moving forward, then nothing is trapping you either. You are not a permanent guest moving through lifetimes. You are the wind changing direction moment to moment. You are the flame that never owns its shape, yet never stops dancing. And once you feel that truth, not just understand it, you realize something breathtaking. You are not continuing yourself. You are reinventing yourself, instantly, endlessly, freely. If I asked you right now, who are you? Most of us would answer with a name, a role, a story, a history. I am a mother. I am a man who needs to be strong. I am someone who overthinks. I am my failures. I am someone trying to heal. But Buddhism gently leans in and whispers a radical truth. You are none of those things, and yet you are all of them in motion. The self you're clinging to, the character you defend, protect, doubt, or feel burdened by, is not a solid structure. It is more like weather, formed from conditions, felt intensely, but never fixed, never owned. Buddha explained this through the five aggregates, five skandhas, the five elements that come together to create the sense of I. 1. Form, body, your physical body, the vehicle you borrow. Skin stretches, cells replace themselves, bones age, sensations pulse. You don't own your body, you experience it. Even pain is not yours. It visits, stays a while, and leaves. 2. Feelings, sensations, emotions. The pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral waves. Joy rises, fades. Anxiety crashes, retreats. Peace comes suddenly like sunlight through clouds. These emotions touch you but don't define you. 3. Perception, labels, interpretations. This is where the mind starts painting meaning. You see a face and think friend or threat. You hear a tone and decide love or rejection. The world you believe you see is actually a mirror of interpretations, not reality itself. 4. Mental formations, habits, reactions. This is the inner machinery. Impulses, coping mechanisms, defense patterns, triggers, reactions programmed from past conditioning, not chosen consciously, yet acted out automatically. This is where suffering loops get recycled. 5. Consciousness, awareness, registering experience. The knowing that constantly shifts, seeing, hearing, thinking, sensing. It doesn't stay. It flickers like frames of a film. One moment anger fills the screen, the next moment curiosity, then stillness. Now here comes the key insight. None of these 5 is you, yet without them, you can't find a you either. Just like a rainbow needs rain, sun, angle, and water vapor, remove any part and the rainbow doesn't stand alone. Did the rainbow ever truly exist as an object? No. Was it real? Absolutely, in experience. This is what the self is in Buddhist psychology, not an entity, a phenomenon, not a solid thing, a temporary event, not a noun, a verb. You are not someone. You are something happening. When you feel broken, what is actually broken? A thought, a feeling, a belief, a moment, not you. When you say, I always fail, what is that I? A storyline, not a soul. When you say, I can't let go, look closely. Is there actually an I holding on, or is there just holding on happening? This shift might sound subtle, but it changes everything. Because if I is a process, not a person, then healing isn't fixing someone, it's changing a pattern. Letting go isn't losing someone, it's releasing a momentum. Freedom isn't for a future version of you, it's for the next thought. Zen Master Dogen once said, to study the self is to forget the self, not destroy it, not reject it, but to look so deeply that it dissolves like fog under gentle sunlight. Modern neuroscience echoes this truth. The brain does not contain a self-center. It contains processes, memory, threat detection, prediction, narrative making. The mind manufactures a sense of me for survival, not for truth. So Buddhism and science quietly meet here, bowing to the same secret. The self is not discovered, it is assembled, moment to moment. The tragedy of human suffering is not that there is no self. The tragedy is believing the self is fixed. Because when you think you're fixed, you defend, you fight, you fear change, you cling, you feel trapped. But when you see yourself as a flowing constellation of conditions, ever changing, ever rearranging, something loosens, the knot softens, the heart sighs with relief. You stop asking life to hold you in one form and finally let yourself move with it. You are not losing yourself as you evolve. You are not abandoning yourself as you heal. You are doing what you have always done, reassembling into a shape that suffers a little less, breathes a little more, and finally feels like home for a moment. When you truly see that there is no single solid owner of your story, you understand this quietly liberating truth. You are not the prison, you are the door. And from this doorway of understanding, we will move to the next part of the video, where we explore how this illusion of self creates the momentum of rebirth itself, and why suffering keeps repeating when awareness does not interrupt the cycle. We'll move to the next part of the video. The human mind loves clarity. We want beginnings, endings, identities, solid explanations. But life, consciousness, and existence are far more fluid than our thoughts can grasp, which is why the Buddhist teaching on rebirth often confuses even sincere seekers. And that leads us gently into the next part of our journey today. We will now move into the next part of this video, the continuation without a traveler, how rebirth really works. Imagine candle A lighting candle B. The flame of B exists because of A, yet it is not the same flame. But neither is it entirely separate. Nothing moved, nothing traveled, yet something undeniably continued. This is the closest metaphor we have for rebirth in Buddhism. Connection without possession, continuation without a permanent entity, transformation without a fixed self. Most of us unconsciously imagine rebirth like a soul packing its memories and identity, boarding a cosmic vehicle, and checking into another body. But Buddhism turns that idea inside out. It says there is no traveler. What continues is not a person, not a spirit, not a fixed essence. What continues is momentum. Think of it like this. You are not the same person you were at age 10. Your cells, beliefs, personality, desires, even the sound of your laughter. Has it not all changed? And yet there's an unmistakable thread linking that child to who you are now. But where is that thread physically stored? It is not in your body, nor in a permanent soul. It exists in patterns, habits, reactions, attachments, unresolved emotions, deep instincts. Buddhism calls this force karma, craving for existence, tanha, and unresolved mental conditioning. Rebirth is not a bridge between two beings. It is a current of causes and conditions seeking form again. Imagine throwing a stone into a quiet lake. The ripples travel outward. There is no separate thing that travels, just motion transferring into the water. In the same way, consciousness is not a solid object, but a moment-to-moment activity. When the body dies, the habits of the mind don't evaporate. The tendencies we fail to transform, fear, desire, clinging, anger, avoidance, longing, continue like a melody that hasn't ended yet. It naturally seeks the next verse, the next form of experience to express itself through. That melody without a musician is what Buddhism calls rebirth. Now here's where the wisdom becomes personal. Rebirth is not only something that happens after death, it happens every day. Every time you wake up anxious about the same issue, the mental pattern is reborn. Every time you react in the same old painful way, a cycle reincarnates itself. You could say, your unhealed self is constantly asking for another lifetime within this lifetime to resolve what it hasn't yet understood. The profound point here is not that you will be reborn, it is that you are reborn right now in every unexamined response. This means liberation is also not postponed until death. Freedom from the cycle becomes possible the moment awareness interrupts the old current. The moment you pause instead of react, the moment you forgive instead of resist, the moment you observe instead of identify, a karmic chain dissolves. That chain does not get carried forward. It ends here. The candle is lit differently this time. Buddhism is not asking you to fear rebirth. It is inviting you to understand it, not as a metaphysical burden, but as a mirror showing you how momentum works in your own psychology. When you heal a tendency, you do not merely change your future, you change the entire flow of continuation. So then, rebirth is not a tragedy. It is not a punishment. It is unfinished sentences of consciousness trying to find completion through awareness. The soul is not traveling. The story is. And the greatest revelation? You are not reborn because you deserve to suffer. You are reborn because your potential has not finished unfolding. The cycle doesn't exist to imprison you. It exists because evolution, awareness, compassion, and awakening are still mid-sentence within you. And now, naturally and gently, we will go into the next part of the content. What determines the direction of that continuation, and how awakening becomes possible within the very mechanics of rebirth itself. What continues after death? This question has chased humanity longer than history itself, and today we will now move into the next part of this video. What continues when you don't? Buddhism answers with something radical, almost poetic in its courage. No person continues, but the current does. There is no someone crossing over, gripping onto a new experience. There is simply the unstoppable momentum of cause and effect rolling forward, like a river that cannot help but flow. Death does not erase karma. It does not press a cosmic reset button. What we call death is merely a pause in the form, not a pause in the process. Consciousness does not jump bodies like switching rooms. It unfolds forward like seeds finding new soil. But what pushes the seed? Buddhism names four forces, quiet, invisible, but immensely powerful. 1. Ignorance, avijja. Not stupidity, but the fog that makes us think life is solid, permanent, me and mine. 2. Craving, tanha. The thirst for more experiences, more identity, more existence, even when existence hurts. 3. Clinging, upadana. The belief that holding on to something will prevent pain, even when holding is the pain. 4. Karma, the momentum of intention, action, and patterns left unexamined. These four forces do not wait politely for another life. They are operating right now in your heartbeat, in your habits, in every moment you grasp at control, reassurance, or certainty. Rebirth is not a mystery of the afterlife. It is a description of unrecognized patterns that refuse to end. Think of a wave rising from the ocean. The wave does not carry a drop identity saying, I was wave or 427 yesterday. It rises because the ocean has energy in motion. When it collapses, the water doesn't vanish. The motion simply seeks another form. This is rebirth, motion without owner, continuation without a fixed self. The Buddha was clear. There is no soul package migrating from one life to the next. What moves is the unfinished echo of intention. If someone lived a life driven by fear, grasping, craving, numbness, avoidance, anger, or unprocessed longing, those energies do not die. They search for a new stage to express themselves, a new body to continue their unresolved story. Not because the universe is cruel, but because consciousness hates unfinished lessons. Now here is where this teaching stops being philosophy and becomes a mirror. You do not fear death. You fear unfinished life. It's not disappearance that terrifies us. It's dying before having truly lived, loved, forgiven, spoken, healed. Rebirth begins not when the heart stops, but when insight has not started. Buddhism uses rebirth not to trap us, but to wake us up. It whispers, look closely at your patterns, because they are writing your next chapter much faster than time is. When the Buddha described rebirth, he was not pointing upward toward metaphysics. He was pointing inward at psychology, at the mechanics of suffering and the architecture of freedom. So the real question is not, will I be reborn? But rather, what in me is being reborn again and again already? Is it the same anxiety wearing a new mask? The same need for validation wearing a new face? The same avoidance in a different career? The same loneliness in a different relationship? This moment, right now, is where rebirth becomes liberation. Because the cycle doesn't demand you escape it. It only asks, do you finally see it? When seeing happens, the wheel doesn't destroy you. It stops needing to turn. Have you ever felt like you were reborn without ever leaving this life? One moment, calm. The next, burning with anger. One decision, sinking into despair. Another, rising into clarity. Maybe reincarnation isn't only something that happens after we die. Maybe it's something we do every single moment. And now, we will move to the next part of today's video. Where we are reborn, outside or within. Traditional Buddhist teachings describe different realms of rebirth, from heavenly realms of bliss to the suffering of the hell realms. To many modern ears, these sound like mythical landscapes, distant and unreachable. But the wisdom of Buddhism was never meant to be locked inside a literal map of the universe. It's a mirror. Imagine someone burning with rage, losing control, saying words that destroy trust. For a moment, they are living in a realm hotter than fire, not after death, but within the pulse of their own heartbeat. This is hell, not as a location, but as a state of consciousness. Picture someone driven by endless craving, chasing validation, money, pleasure, always consuming, never fulfilled. This one travels through a realm of thirst without water. This is the realm of the hungry ghost, and someone floating in comfort, numbing awareness with distraction, intoxicated by pleasure, forgetting to wake up. This is the heavenly realm, beautiful, soft, dangerous, because awakening rarely happens when we are too comfortable. And here lies the twist. These realms are not separate from us. They are expressions of us. Buddhism speaks in two languages at once, the outer world and the inner world. Neither cancels the other. Both are true at the same time. The realms can be destinations after death, but they are also psychological territories we teleport into every day. Because rebirth is not only a doorway after the final breath, it is a moment-to-moment uprising of identity. Right now, listen carefully. You are in the process of rebirth. A harsh word forms in your mind? You have taken birth in a realm of conflict. A sudden wave of gratitude softens your chest. You have taken birth in a realm of peace, a decision to forgive even when your ego resists. You have stepped into a higher realm than any heaven can describe. This is the genius of the Buddha's message. Rebirth does not wait for death to begin. It begins in the microsecond you say yes to a thought, a reaction, a belief about yourself. A popular misunderstanding is that Buddhism teaches escape life, escape desire, escape emotion. No. Buddhism teaches awareness within the fire, not running from it. The path is not about avoiding rebirth, but becoming conscious of how it happens. Because unconscious rebirth is suffering. Conscious rebirth is liberation. The enlightened one is not someone who never falls into anger or fear, but someone who notices the fall before hitting the ground. Someone who says, I see what is arising. I will not sign the contract this time. I will not take birth here again. This is why meditation is described as dying before death. Each time you let a thought dissolve without attaching to it, a version of you ends, and a wiser version begins. Each breath holds the power of reincarnation. Inhale, the universe offers another chance. Exhale, the old world collapses. Not tomorrow, not after this lifetime, right now. So the real question is not, where will I be reborn after life? It is, where am I being reborn today? What if the real transformation never required belief at all? Most spiritual teachings begin with, you must believe. But the Buddha started with something radically different. Don't believe, investigate. And now, we will go to the next part of today's video. Rebirth is optional. Awareness is not. The Buddha spoke these words more than 2,500 years ago in the Kalama Sutta to villagers overwhelmed by competing beliefs. They asked, who should we trust? And the Buddha replied, trust nothing blindly, not scriptures, not teachers, not even me. Test the teaching in your own life. See what it does to your heart. He offered a compass, not a command. And the compass had 3 directions. Does it reduce suffering? Does it increase compassion? Does it awaken wisdom? If the answer is yes, walk that path. If not, drop it. No philosophical exam, no belief system required. The brilliance of Buddhism is this. Freedom does not begin at the moment you believe the right idea, but the moment you stop clinging to any idea that traps you. Rebirth, karma, enlightenment. These are not badges of faith. They are hypotheses to be tested in the laboratory of experience. The Buddha even gave 4 extraordinary assurances, 4 soft cushions for a restless mind, sometimes called the 4 comforts of Kalama. If rebirth exists and karma operates, a life lived with kindness leads to a better arising. If rebirth does not exist, a life lived with kindness brings peace now, in this very lifetime. One who does no harm cannot be harmed by the echoes of harm. And no matter what cosmic truth is or isn't, ethical living is the safest, wisest home for the heart. Do you see the genius here? He removed fear, removed dependence, removed metaphysics, and left us with something no skeptic can deny. When you reduce harm, life gets better. When you increase compassion, you suffer less. When you live consciously, you are freer. You don't have to believe in reincarnation to live like your actions have consequences. You only need to notice that your choices shape you. Each time you choose patience over reactivity, you reincarnate as someone gentler. Each time you choose courage over avoidance, you are reborn as someone braver. Each time you forgive, an old identity dies and a lighter one begins. The universe may or may not recycle souls, but your mind recycles habits every day. So the deeper question isn't, do you believe in rebirth? It is, are you willing to be reborn beyond your limits? The Buddha was not a theologian. He was the world's first mind therapist. He never pointed upward, demanding worship. He pointed inward, offering a mirror. Each teaching is medicine, not doctrine. Each practice is surgery, not scripture. The purpose is not devotion. The purpose is relief. And here is his silent invitation, the one he never shouts. Live as if each thought sculpts your destiny. Live as if each action paints your horizon. Live as if your next rebirth, in this world, in this mind, in this lifetime, depends on what you choose right now. Not because you must believe it, but because it changes you when you live that way. Enlightenment is not a reward awaiting the faithful. It is the natural side effect of awareness sustained without negotiation. So let belief rest if it wants to. Let doubt sit beside you if it knocks. Neither is the door. Awareness is the door. Responsibility is the key. Your life, this breath, this moment, is the turning of the lock. Anxiety doesn't knock on your door to destroy you. It arrives with a message, an unfinished emotion, an unmet need, or a grip that has tightened quietly around your heart. Pain becomes suffering not because it appears, but because we argue with it. The mind says, "Go away, you shouldn't be here." And anxiety, like an unexpected guest, stays longer when it is not welcomed. The Buddha never taught us to defeat our inner weather. He invited us to understand it. Imagine standing in heavy rain. The rain does not stop because we are angry at it. It stops when clouds have exhausted themselves. Anxiety works in the same way. The moment you stop fighting, you stop feeding it energy. The moment you observe it, you reduce its power. A simple shift in language can change your relationship with your mind. Instead of saying, "I am anxious," try saying, "There is anxiety arising in me." Just a subtle difference in words, but a monumental difference in awareness. One traps you inside the storm. The other lets you watch the storm from a distance. This is the moment you reclaim space within yourself. Because here is the truth. Clouds can cover the sky, but they can never become the sky. Thoughts can be loud, but they are not the thinker. Emotions can rise, but they are not your identity. The moment you truly see this, a silent freedom opens its door. Not freedom from anxiety, but freedom inside anxiety. You start to breathe again. Your inner world softens. Your fear begins to lose its shape. But awareness alone is not enough. Next comes grounding, because insight must land somewhere real, somewhere alive, somewhere embodied. The mind lives in stories. What might happen? What has happened? What could go wrong? But the body lives only in the now. It knows no tomorrow. It knows no yesterday. It knows pulse, presence, and breath. When anxiety pulls you upward into thought, peace pulls you downward into sensation. Not by force, by invitation. You don't push the mind to be silent. You give it a place to land. 3 anchors that never fail to serve you. The weight of your feet touching the ground. The natural rhythm of your breath, undisturbed. The surrounding sounds living around you, not inside you. No need to deepen your breath. No need to quiet your heart. No need to chant anything perfect. Just feel. Just notice. Just be there. Mindfulness is not the act of making yourself peaceful. It's the act of noticing peace that was already there, under the noise. You may think your anxiety is loud, but your heartbeat is louder. You may think your thoughts are powerful, but your breath moves without asking permission. Your body never panics about tomorrow. It only answers to the present moment. So when your mind runs, let your body sit. Let your shoulders soften. Let your jaw release. Let your hands rest without gripping the future. And gently remind yourself, I don't need to solve this moment. I only need to live it. This is the art of returning, not escaping. The world teaches us to run away from discomfort. Mindfulness teaches us to return to ourselves with curiosity instead of conflict. Eventually, you meet a beautiful paradox. You don't calm the storm. You calm the one who is afraid of the storm. And when you soften, the storm finds nothing left to push against. It dissolves, not because you defeated it, but because you stopped treating it like an enemy. This is how healing works in silence. No battle, no forced victory, just a gentle shift in awareness. And this is why, in this journey, the question was never, how do I eliminate anxiety? But rather, how do I stop abandoning myself when anxiety speaks? Because the deepest peace does not come from controlling life. It comes from trusting your capacity to meet life without breaking. And right here, where breath meets body, where awareness meets heartbeat, you discover something quietly radical. You were never asking for the fear to leave. You were asking for a safe place to stand while it passed. And you found it, right here, inside yourself. If you remember nothing else from this journey, remember this. You were never broken. You were just convinced you were. You were never weak. You were simply tired of carrying storms that were never yours to hold. And you were never asking for the pain to disappear. You were asking for a place where you could finally stop pretending to be unaffected. The mind wants to be fixed. The heart wants to be seen. The soul just wants permission to rest without apology. And that permission, you don't need to earn it. Buddhism, mindfulness, awareness, breath, grounding, none of these are tools to make you someone new. They are reminders of someone ancient, quiet, and unshakably whole. The self you already are when no one is watching, when nothing is demanded, when nothing needs to be performed. Healing was never about becoming invincible. Healing was about realizing you don't have to be. You don't have to silence every wave. You don't have to conquer every fear. You don't have to stand above the storm to prove you are strong. Sometimes strength is simply the courage to whisper, "This hurts," without collapsing into it. Sometimes courage looks like a breath. Other times it looks like silence. Most days it just looks like showing up again. Not heroic, not loud, but honest. And this is the quiet miracle. When you stop fighting yourself, something in you begins to rise. Not forcefully, but naturally. Not as a warrior against the world, but as a witness to your own becoming. Because peace was never the absence of noise. Peace was your ability to hear the noise without losing yourself in it. So today, if your heart is heavy, let it be heavy without shame. If your thoughts are loud, let them roar without argument. If you are afraid, let fear sit beside you rather than imprison you. You don't meditate to destroy the ego. You meditate to understand it gently. You don't observe the storm to remove it. You observe it to remember you are the sky. And skies don't chase clouds. They hold them and let them pass. Before we end, I have a question for you. A question more important than any philosophy, any scripture, any doctrine. When was the last time you offered yourself the same compassion you give to others so easily? Pause here. Let that question land. Now I invite you, type your answer in the comments, even if it's just one word. Brave, tired, healing, learning, trying, breathing, whatever it is, name it. Your honesty might become someone else's courage today. In the next video, we'll go even deeper into the practice of transforming suffering into clarity, how to sit with emotions without drowning in them, and how self-compassion becomes the quiet doorway to freedom. But until then, carry this with you. You don't heal by becoming someone else. You heal by returning to yourself with softer hands. You don't find peace by controlling life. You find peace when you stop being afraid of life touching you, and you don't become whole someday. You uncover that you never stop being whole. Now take one breath, slowly, and exhale with the relief of someone who just learned they were never meant to be at war with themselves. You are allowed to be here, completely, imperfectly, human. Thank you for breathing through this with me.